At least half a dozen buildings, including Marshal Hotel and Yuncui building in Hualien, toppled during last night's earthquake. These buildings were built 20 to 40 years ago, and yet none were resistant to the trembler. Just why did these buildings topple and others were unscathed? Experts say these buildings had a similar design to that of Tainan's Weiguan building, which was destroyed in 2016 Meinong Earthquake.
Buildings in Hualien began to sway and collapse in last night's quake. This man, who was running for his life, witnessed the fracturing of a column. After the quake, the bottom 3 floors of the 12-story Yuncui building immediately collapsed. Similarly, the bottom 3 floors of the 8-story Marshal Hotel disappeared into the ground. Experts point out the crucial flaw in the design of the bottom floors.
Risk factors for the collapse of buildings in an earthquake are almost all to do with weak columns in the bottom floors, especially for big buildings. Besides columns, walls are critical, but many of these walls are not considered properly when the structure is designed.
The Marshal Hotel was over 40 years old. Its biggest problem was the space underneath the bottom 3 floors, where all the original walls were removed. The hotel's attempt to shore up the structure by adding columns was too little too late.
Basically, this type of building has very few walls, but there are many rooms with lots of partitioning walls on the upper floors. So a building with masses of partition walls is placed on top of a bottom with just a few columns. When an earthquake hits, it's very vulnerable to collapse.
Experts have noticed that the Marshal Hotel was constructed very similarly to the Weiguan building that collapsed in an earthquake in Tainan 2 years ago. Both had hollowed-out ground floors with few columns and even fewer walls, a recipe for disaster when an earthquake strikes.